Today I am going to be picking these red cayenne peppers, and they're spicy, but they shouldn't hurt your fingers if all you're touching is the stems. But I wouldn't rub your eyes just to be safe. Yesterday, Dad went down into town with me so we could go to the DMV and take my driver's permit test, and I passed it on my first try, and so now I am officially ready to practice driving, and that's exciting. School starts Thursday, and I'm going to be a sophomore in high school. I'm pretty excited. Me and my friends are anxious to get back, so it's going to be pretty fun.
This morning I'm working on picking Anaheim peppers. Man, they are just doing so well. I can't even believe it. We've just kind of let the peppers go kind of crazy, and we haven't paid a lot of attention to them because so much of our time and energy has been taken up processing all of the tomatoes that we have grown this year, which has been just such a huge blessing. One thing that's nice about peppers is that they're not in a lot of danger to like going bad on the plant like a tomato. A tomato, if it's ripe, you need to pick it before it splits and rots and goes bad and those kinds of things. But peppers, as long as you keep them on there, they'll continue to grow, and if they reach, full size, then they'll just start turning red in most cases. So we've been able to just kind of let them stay on the plant rather than harvesting them all and then being completely overwhelmed with all of the tomatoes that we have to process and all the peppers that are in the house. So today we kind of have a lull, a day or so in between having to deal with tomatoes. And the tomatoes are really at the end of their growing. The plants look horrible, and we're really at the last picking of the tomatoes. So now we can start concentrating more on peppers. These Anaheim peppers I will roast in the oven and skin them, and then I will can them in small 4-ounce and 8-ounce jars in a pressure canner. I did a video this summer of how to roast chili peppers, and so I'll go ahead and put a link to that in this video. And then today I'm going to be showing you how to can those. I did promise you that earlier in the summer, and I am going to fulfill that promise and teach you how to can these green chilies. They are so good throughout the winter in different, Mexican or spicy recipes. And so I know that all the hard work, because it's a lot of work to do this, all the hard work will pay off throughout the year. And you know what? I think that we've actually grown enough Anaheim peppers this year, and we'll can enough that I may not have to grow them next year. That will just leave extra room in the garden for other things. Or for different kinds of fun peppers next year. There's Grace's box. There's my box. Got some work to do. Harvesting, roasting, and canning green chili peppers is a several day process for me on the homestead just because it's a long process. I don't ever have the whole day that I can do every single part. So Grace and I picked the peppers, then I roasted them on another day, and then this morning the girls and I peeled them all, seeded them, cut them up, and then I'm going to can them this afternoon. When you're canning green chili peppers, this is a low acid food, so it needs to be pressure canned. No water bath canning allowed for this situation. Today I'll be using my double stack pressure canner that has the dial pressure gauge on the top. I have already filled the bottom with the appropriate amount of water. Now in my canner there are lines etched in it that show you the proper fill level, but I think it is 3 quarts. If you're not sure on your pressure canner, make sure that you look in the instruction manual that comes with your canner. I think I'm going to be doing 2 different levels today of the green chilies. I'm going to do 12 of them. The first 12 will be in these 4-ounce jars. Not a whole lot fits in these jars, but that's okay, because for our family, 1 jar is just about enough to add into any kind of meal. The problem for me is that these little jars are about the same price as a jelly jar, which is an 8-ounce jar. So I generally don't buy many of these, so I have more of the jelly jars. So I'm going to start with 12 of the small jars, and then whatever is left over, I'll move on to the jelly jars. I'll just have to plan accordingly in my meal planning over the year to use 2 meals in a week. So I'll use half of 1 jar on 1 meal and the other half on another meal. I also have on the stove a pot of water boiling. We'll be adding just a tiny bit of boiling water on top of the green chilies once we get to that part. So I already have those things going to help me out, so this process can go a little bit faster. Before we begin canning, I just want to quickly go over the things that I have in front of me that you will need in order to can these green chilies. I have boiling water. I have a nice big bowl of these peeled and seeded, mostly seeded, green chili peppers, lids, rings, the 2 types of jars that I'll be using today, a ladle, a measuring tool, canning funnel, the canning tongs, and a cloth. So let's get started canning. With these little 4-ounce jars, it's really not going to take much peppers to fill up to the 1-inch mark. So I'm just going to go easy at first. And I'm going to be sure to use my measuring tool to make sure that I have a really good, at least 1-inch headspace, to make sure that I don't overfill it. And this looks good. If you don't have a measuring tool, especially if you're a new canner, I suggest that you get one of these. Each little step on here is marked with the measurement, whether it's a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch, and that is really good until you get the hang of it and until your eye can kind of see where you need to stop when you're canning. Okay, so I have that to the right amount of space with the peppers, and I'm just going to add a tiny bit of the boiling water until that reaches the 1-inch headspace, and it does. And so now I'm going to just move all the peppers around in the water to make sure that there aren't any bubbles in there, and remeasure that. Perfect. Then take my cloth and wipe off the rim to make sure that there isn't any debris stuck on there that would prevent the lid from sealing. Put the lid on, and a ring, finger tight, not super tight, finger tight, and now this can go into the canner. Now we'll keep doing this, the same process with the 4-ounce and in the 8-ounce until all of the jars are filled and all of the peppers are gone. So I've used up all of the green chilies. They're all in jars in the canning pot, 2 levels. The first level, there are 13 of the 4-ounce little jars, and then on the top, I ended up getting 6 jelly jars, the 8-ounce jars, with the rest of the green chilies. So now I need to put the top on, line up the little arrows, twist it on, and we're going to turn on the heat. We're going to turn it on high, and what we're waiting for initially is for the steam to build up and for steam to start coming out of this little vent, I guess. We're going to let that steam out of there. We'll set a timer once that starts, and we'll let it vent out of there for 10 minutes. Now that this has been venting for 10 minutes, we can actually put the weight right on top of the vent. Once this reaches 10 pounds of pressure, we will process these for 35 minutes. My timer has gone off, so I have turned off the heat, and I need to move the canner off of the burner. And we're going to let this rest just like this until this vent button, or whatever it's called, drops back down on its own. The air vent lock has dropped down, and I waited about 5 minutes. So now it's time to take the weight off. You should wait at least a good 5 minutes with this off before starting to remove the lid. I actually generally wait at least 10 minutes just to be sure. Now that about 10 minutes has gone by, I'm going to start to remove the lid. Now the instructions in my canner manual says to just take the lid off altogether, but a lot of times when I do that, a lot of the liquid will siphon out of the jars. So in order to prevent that, I just open it and set it kind of crossways on itself a little bit to allow the some of the steam and the heat to come out of the canner, but not so quickly that it could make the liquid siphon out of the jars. Now I'll just leave this here for at least 10 minutes, and then I'll come back and take this off and take the jars out. Okay, we're all set and ready to take these jars out of the canner. Now when you're taking jars out of the canner, you'll want to make sure that you put it on a towel on the counter so that there's not a big temperature difference between the hot jars and the cold counter. That can actually make your jars crack or bust, just having that big temperature difference on the glass. If at this point your jars are still really bubbling hard and you're afraid that they're going to siphon out and leak liquid, you can just keep them in here for 10 more minutes before removing the jars. But these guys are doing pretty good. That was a good job done. Now you guys, I know this wasn't really detailed information and instructions on how to pressure can, so I recommend that you refer to your owner's manual for your canner, but also my very favorite canning book ever, the Ball Complete Book of Home Preserving. This has 400 recipes in it and some really great instructions on how not only to pressure can, but also to water bath can. Check this out. I do have it in our Amazon shop if you want to learn more about it. You guys, I hope you learned something new today. I hope you enjoyed coming along with me as we pick peppers and can them. If you are not subscribed yet, right now is the perfect time to hit the subscribe button below. Thank you to all of our traditionalists who come back 5 days a week, every week, to watch all of our videos. Before you go, don't forget to share this on all your social media. And until next time, thanks so much for stopping by the homestead. Take care and God bless.